there's so much talk about service to the guru and serving the guru with everything you have. I'm only aware of slaves that have had such talk of serving an individual or serving a master. Are your followers your slaves? I mean, do they work for free?
Oh, I see. Well, all I can say is, unfortunately, this person appears again to be, I don't know, so I'll just say appears to be brainwashed. It appears that this person is equating not earning a living, not being paid for work, as meaning that you are a slave. That's what I'm getting. That's the last part. I'm going to address that first. If that were true, that people who come here to the Bhakti School of Transformation to volunteer their service in service to our school, and yes, also in service to the Guru, because the Guru is the one who gives the instruction for the spiritual aspect of the service, because there are two aspects. There's the mundane service itself, the tasks that have to be done, but there's also a spiritual principle behind it that makes Guru Seva, we call it here, service to the Guru, a spiritual practice. So let me take the mundane side first. How many organizations do we know around the world where people volunteer their time and do not get paid? Are they slaves? Because if you were to say they are not slaves, then the volunteers who come here are not slaves either. It would have to be the same. Volunteerism is volunteerism, whether it's here at the Bhakti School, or whether it's for the organization Feed the Hungry, or whether it's for an organization that helps AIDS patients. There's a lot of people volunteering their time for no pay, and joyously doing so, because they want to serve the means and the ends of the organization that they volunteer for. That's no different than what happens here. People come here and they experience being transformed, and they want others to have that same experience, and they serve our organization, and circuitously by serving our organization, they serve the Guru, they serve Kedarji, in only one thing: to get the word out, to reach more people about what they themselves have experienced is so valuable for becoming better people, for leading greater and better lives. And so, yes, we have volunteers who serve that end. They're not paid, not because we don't want to. I wish we had a bankroll and could pay everyone who comes through the door and says, I want to see your organization expand. I wish we could put everyone on a payroll. We don't have those funds. If we did, I would do so. However, even if I were to do that, I know there would be people whom I know already who have said, I don't want any money from you, who have come here and they've served our school for extended periods of time, simply because they want us to expand, they want us to be able to reach more people. That is not unlike any other not-for-profit public charity that has volunteers. Most of them have volunteers. Even the public charities, by the way, who can afford to pay staff, if you're not aware, do not do so. They invoke volunteerism. That's a natural, organic part of the not-for-profit sector, that people volunteer their time based on really loving what the organization stands for and what the organization does in the community or for people. So to say that if people who come here are not paid, they're slaves, I won't even address that, because that's just a stupid comment. The person who made this statement didn't even think this through logically. You should stop and think about what you're going to say before you say it. So that's the first thing. And then guru this, guru that. So here we practice Guru Seva. It's called Guru Seva because there is a spiritual aspect to selfless service that the Guru instructs. And I was led through this practice, which changed my existence here forever for the better. Can you offer your love in tasks in such a way that you experience indescribable joy from that offering? And can you do so in such a way that increases your all-consuming love for God? We call this making every task a blessed sacrament to God. And we're not the only ones who do this. The Catholic Church encourages people to make offerings to God through their service to the church. The Christian Church does this. So I don't know why this has come up, but anyway, the spiritual aspect of serving without wanting reward for doing so is its own reward. Guru Seva is its own reward. It is spiritually elevating. To be giving love through service elevates us spiritually and often permanently if the instruction is really great on the part of the spiritual leader. And so we have many traditions on this planet where people are encouraged to serve an organization that's focused on a strong leader. For example, the Civil Rights Movement. Dr. Martin Luther King was the leader. He also happened to be a Baptist preacher. He also happened to have his own guru in Thich Nhat Hanh. He also meditated, he chanted, he had a belief that we are all equal in God. The people who joined Dr. King, one of whom was my mother, served him selflessly, and they understood they were serving Dr. King. And they did so, serving Dr. King, precisely because if there were other factions, which they were, Malcolm X, H. Rap Brown, they were spin-offs of Dr. King's organization. And so the people who were involved in the civil rights movement the way we know it today served Dr. King because they knew there would be other manifestations of this organization. So they did not want to just serve an organization. They wanted to serve the human being who represented the leadership of the organization. Now, this comes out of the mouth of my mother and many, many others. So they understood they were serving him, and they did so gladly. And so we have this in many ways, but let me share with you another way. Is it not true that you serve your employer? Is it not true that you go to work every day for a paycheck? Because this person talks about, well, if you're not getting paid, you're a slave. Can you be a slave and still be paid? Let's examine that for a moment, since this question has come up. So I worked on Wall Street, and everybody, all of the sales reps on Wall Street knew they were being asked to do things that were criminal. They continued to do so for a paycheck, and in doing so, they served the owner of the brokerage. They did what the owner of the brokerage told them to do. Some of them, whom I know, are in prison today because they broke the law by serving the owner of the brokerage. Do you think that in today's world, let me give you an example. An example is Wells Fargo Bank. Do you remember the big scam in Wells Fargo Bank? I think it's about 5 or 6 years old, where employees were told by upper managers to begin opening new accounts with present account holders without telling them, opening new accounts in their names that had a monthly fee attached to it. And so all of a sudden, people who have an account with Wells Fargo, now they have 5 accounts, and they come to realize they're paying monthly fees on these accounts. That the managers told the employees to do this, it's illegal. And they told them to do it without letting the account holders know. Remember, this is a big scam. It went all the way up to, what's his name, who owns Berkshire Hathaway, who's also the CEO of Wells Fargo. I forget his name now, but anyway. It went all the way to the top. And then what happened is the scandal broke. It was investigated, people were arrested, and come to find out the employees knew they were breaking the law. Why did they continue to break the law? Because they were serving Warren Buffett, that's his name, and they had stars in their eyes about Warren Buffett and being part of an organization, a bank that he owned, and they were getting paid bonuses for doing so, and the other enticement was they were getting performance reviews, which gave them raises, and they were being moved up to upper management. Were they not serving their managers' interests, knowing they were doing something illegal, but being paid to do it? So we have all kinds of slavery in business. These people are slaves. And then what happened? The managers who were complicit in telling these people to do what they did, they were not arrested. The employees were arrested. The employees who blew the whistle on the managers were arrested. Warren Buffett, if you remember, denied all culpability. He said, well, I'm the CEO. I don't know what goes on in my bank every day. I'm not responsible. It's the managers and the employees. And then he went and did a press conference and he said, you know, those damned employees, they took it upon themselves. So the very people who blew the whistle got fired and were arrested, and some of them were jailed. Is that not slavery? Just because you were paid, you think you're not a slave? How many times have you gone to your boss or manager and said, have you had this experience? Has anyone had this experience? You know, I saw something that I don't think is quite right. I don't think it's quite right. I think it may even be breaking the law. I just want you to know about it because I'm worried, because I'm in this department also. And if I continue to do what I'm being asked to do, I'm concerned that I may be doing something unethical or breaking the law. Has that ever happened to you? And then what does your boss say? Well, don't worry about it. If there's a problem, I'm responsible. You just keep doing what you're doing. Are you not a slave in that situation? Where you're overriding your human dignity, you're overriding your better judgment, you're setting aside your integrity for a paycheck? You're a slave. If you don't think you are, I just described slavery underpayment. So, you know, don't be so brainwashed. God exists within you, enveloped in your conscience. Don't be so quick to think and to speak out just because it's an organization that involves a spiritual leader, that all of a sudden the volunteers are slaves. If the people who come here and volunteer are slaves, then every volunteer of every organization on the planet who employs volunteers, they're also slaves. So you can think about that. Did I answer the rest of the question?
Yes.
So it's really good to understand what's up here before you open your mouth with things that may not make sense. People giving of their time in a loving fashion out of gratitude for what they've been given is not only dharmic, is not only righteous, particularly when it's done out of their love and gratitude, but that in itself is service to God. That in itself is service to humanity, whether there's pay involved or not. Oh, and there's one other thing that people should know who are watching this. So this being with this label KRG, and you are aware of this, are you not? That I'm not on a payroll. For 14 years, I have worked an average of 80 hours a week in service to the Bhakta School of Transformation without being paid. Yes, the school does provide for my food. Yes, the school does provide so that I can drive a car and put gas in the car. But that's about it. I receive no pay and have received no pay, and even though the board of directors of the school has agreed to pay me a 15% stipend, there were 2 years running where I accepted that stipend and then gave it back to the school because the school, as you were aware, you remember, needed the money for operating costs and for overhead. So the only 2 times in the existence of the Bhakta School of Transformation that I have ever been paid a stipend, I gave that stipend back to the school. So essentially, it's an 80-hour a week, folks, 80 hours per week that I give of my time to sustain the Bhakta School and to lead both the spiritual aspects and the practical aspects of our organization, for which I've never been paid in 14 years. Even the edifice that I dwell in does not belong to me. It's owned by the school. I don't have possessions. I'm not on a payroll. I do what I do and give what I give to say thank you to my Sri Gurudev, for whom I can never repay for what he gave me. Nam